All right, so this is TV Africa. We're talking about leadership here on Breakfast Live. This is your best breakfast. Now, before we went off, I was telling you about it's not the way you think, it is what you think. So we refer to the lion as the king of the jungle. But the lion is not the heaviest, it is not the tallest, it is not the strongest. There's the elephant, which is very strong. There's a hippo that's got a lot of weight. There is a giraffe that is very tall. But what does the elephant think? The elephant thinks, I am big. The way I am big, I can do everything. So it is the way it thinks that makes it operate within a certain environment. But it is not referred to as the king of the jungle. What differentiates the lion from the elephant? When the lion sees anything big, tall, fat, heavy, or strong, it says, this is lunch. That is what Mars Monroe said. So what it thinks is that this is lunch, I must get it. But the elephant is comfortable and saying that I am big, I am huge, I am this and that. It's the way of thinking. That is how we are. So the difference between a leader and a commoner is what you think, not the way you think. So chew on that one. And when we come back, as we're back in the studio, I want to find out. So one, we are political leaders. We have the president, the vice president, chief of staff, everything, so on and so forth. MPs, people who are heading district assemblies, ministries, departments, and agencies. How would I be able to tell whether or not this person is a good leader?
Well, basically by the way the person acts, by their fruits you know them.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw in this bit, which is not that important, but these are very little qualities. I saw a big man somewhere one time, I'm not going to mention names, and the moment I saw the big man, I saw somebody following him with his folders. So I asked, who is this person? And they mentioned his name, and I was like, so he can't hold this little folder by himself? And they said, he's a big man, so somebody's got to do it.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. You see, the misconception of who a leader is. And you were talking about popularity,
influence.
Yeah,
exactly.
I just want to throw in this bit, influence. You see, it is not the influence that makes you a leader. It is the leader, the leadership gift that makes you have the influence.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm a mechanic, I have the gift to fix machines.
Yeah.
And I'm serving my community. Now, remember, my gift is being used to serve the community. So then, if your machine breaks down, you're going to call me. And I'm going to advise you on what to do.
Right.
So now I am influencing you based on my gift. So without my gift, you wouldn't be calling me. So it is not the influence that makes you a leader, but it is the gift for service that makes you have the influence. But we have it the other way around. So back to our politicians.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you don't cultivate the principles, you would not be able to practice them. It's as simple as that.
Where do I cultivate that principle? Is it a school
Our
that I have
basic
to go
life.
to?
I believe he made mention of Proverbs.
Yeah.
The other time I was thinking about leadership, when I was writing my book, I got to a point where I started thinking about leadership, where we went wrong. And I even realized that most of our Proverbs are full of leadership principles. Usum bodi anu usum kwedu.
Okay.
I don't know, I may have it the other way around. Is it usum kwedu anu usum
No,
bodi? Whichever way, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a principle of management. You see, yeah,
exactly.
it's a principle of justice.
Yeah.
And we have, let me say, we have limited these principles to linguistics. And all we say is, oh, this person is
it's got good
very
oratory skills
vocal.
when it comes to that's
you
all.
know, instead of us teaching these principles to our kids, and I can tell you, I have 4 boys, and I teach them principles. If every evening, if I'm putting them to bed, I make sure I decode whatever has been deposited in them and into context within certain principles. So they will tell you this is a principle of justice. This is the principle of service. You see, we got to teach it to our children and make sure, even as we teach it to our children, we also hold ourselves to that accountability.
Accountability is one of the key traits of a leader. Let me come to Obadele. Obadele, let's look at the development of Africa and the kind of leadership that we have. could you put it on a scale and let's assess it? How the development of Africa is looking now and the kind of leadership that we have. Is it commensurate?
This is a very good question, and I'd like to take from where Nana Bonsu left off, just in terms of Proverbs. Now, Proverbs instruct us in terms of how our leaders should be, and there are a few from, again, the Kikongo language of Congo that I'd like to share, 3 specifically.
Right.
Where the first one says, Mfumu dikanda kalauka milongi katundidi, and it translates to, a societal leader becomes foolish if he bypasses his people's advice.
Okay.
That's 1. 2, Mfumu dikanda kalauka bilesi katundidi, a community leader becomes foolish if he usurps his people's prerogatives.
Okay.
That's 2. And then 3, Mfumu dikanda kalauka yemba katumudidi. And that translates to, a community leader becomes mentally sick if he intends to destroy the public's fundamental institutions.
Okay.
Right? So if we look at the so-called leaders who are oftentimes selected for us rather than from ourselves, because, you know, we can look at things like the CIA's role in overthrowing Nana Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah.
You can look at their role in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, also the role of France in the assassination of Thomas Sankara. We can look at the role of Portugal in the assassination of Amilcar Cabral. So the question becomes, when we have good leaders, you know, what happens to them?
Right.
And then in the place of almost all of them, we have puppets who are installed, you know, Mobutu in the place of Lumumba, Blaise Compaoré in the place of Thomas Sankara. There were even laments from the West that those who took over after Nkrumah were almost pathetically pro-West. They're like, this is almost, it's almost too much. It's like,
it's in our face.
So, you know, these are some of the things that if we understood some of these proverbs and even more so operationalize them in our lives, it would go, you know, I think very far. And there's a proverb in Tree as well, and this goes to your point about the lion and the elephant.
Yeah.
In Tree they say, Osono kokroko, adowa na oman wano. So one is not considered to be the lion because he said Nyansa Chan Ohwadin. So we see the Adawa as the one who is very wise and able to be crafty.
It's not even, exactly.
So, and the other thing is that the natural habitat of the lion is not the quote unquote jungle, it's the savannah. So this is what happens also when we're following, you know, the expressions of people who don't even live in Africa. If you're saying lion is king of the jungle, lions don't live in the jungle.
Oh, right, okay, so like, literally,
And then also, what is the lesson telling you? Saying, oh, this person is powerful, and that's why that one is a leader. But if you look at actual African proverbs, it's not saying the one who's strong or big or powerful is the leader. It's the one who has nyansa, the one who has wisdom like the Adawa.
All right. So in Africa, why? Why are we here? Why do we find ourselves in this position? There is no single African country that you can say, I can comfortably visit this African country and I know everything is working. Why so?
Then again, back to the misunderstanding of leadership. The point is, our system, the colonial, should I say, invasion of Africa has contributed greatly to our demise, not necessarily, that's too strong a word, to our problems.
Our problems. That makes us stupid.
But then...
That makes us stupid, Nana.
Yes. My grandmom always says, when somebody pushes you down, don't expect the person to help you stand up. Right. Because if he wants you to stand up, he wouldn't push you down in the first place. So, not to say that we're using it as a clutch now or excuse for not doing what is right. But then it reinforced the master-servant relationship as far as leadership is concerned. And it took away the true concept of leadership, which is service to your community. And in my book, I paid homage to one of the, I would say, Africa's best servants, who happens to be one of my greatest idols, Dr. David Abdoulaye, who started the Shekinah Clinic in the North. This is a man who his whole life served his community. He understood the principle of leadership. He understood the concept of leadership. So after he became a medical doctor, he decided to go back to his community, build a hospital to serve the community.
Right.
this is somebody who truly understands leadership. And until our leaders in Africa would understand the leadership in that concept, and one of the things we also have to understand is that leadership simply means leading leaders. So if you realize that everybody has something to contribute to the development of the community.
As per what Obadele said, that when you neglect the people's advice, when you neglect their prerogative, their fundamental thinking, everything.
And it even humbles you. It makes you know that you don't have it all. You are not the best of the people.
Okay, how do we develop Africa using leadership qualities? How? I mean, it again baffles my mind. Apparently, we should have been mentioning, oh, Kwame Nkrumah, Kotoka, Atta, Yeboah, Frifa, you know, Champon, Rollins. We mentioned everybody. But how can we just mention Kwame Nkrumah, then the rest is swallowed? The development of Africa, leadership. How do we manage this? What do we do?
Right. I think that we can go to a question of two things. One, origins, and then benefits.
Okay.
And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you see who originated the idea, usually you have to think about how do they benefit from this idea that they have introduced here. And we've talked in, some mention has been made of so-called colonial masters. I always refer to them as colonial enemies because I think it's more appropriate. But if you see that they've originated a system that at that time, and you can look at how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, if you say they originated a system where they're able to just take resources without accountability to anyone, now you just take out the white pieces, put in black pieces, and you expect the system to do something different. You understand? It's like saying, oh, the gun shot me, it must be broken. No, that's what it was designed to do. So you have a system that's designed to take the resources of Africa without any accountability, and you've kept that exact same system. So if you see who originated the thing, then you can see how they benefit from that thing.
So the system is one of the key things that we need to tackle.
And vice versa, because if you see that this person benefits from it, most likely they're the ones who originated the idea. So if you see these types of so-called leaders who are not leading, and they may be misleaders, then you have to see, okay, who originated that? Who benefits from that situation? Because again, oftentimes we will diagnose something, we think that it's the cause, but really it's the end result of an intentional process to create misleaders, to create anti-Africans. Okay. So I think that these are some of the things that we really have to, take a look at. If I see there's this type of system that isn't serving us, who created it in the first place? The ones who are getting rich to the tune of billions and trillions from that system being in place. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So you had a conference not too long ago. In fact, you're having a series of conferences on leadership. Yes. And there's one also that is coming up. It's also got to do with leadership. So talk about yours. Let's talk about his. Okay. So I saw Dr. Asante. I saw Lloyd Amoa and what is this man's name? National Youth. Yeah. Asigri. They spoke. And I'm asking, so what? What next?
Well, basically, the Leadership Summit is being organized by CERTO, Leadership International. CERTO is an acronym meaning Service to Humanity.
Oh, okay.
And AfriWIC is also an acronym meaning an African with a changed mentality. We believe that we cannot do anything different until we change our mindset. Okay. So what we're doing is to target the youth to help reorient, so to speak, the way they think in terms of leadership with respect to the African continent.
Is that not going to be very difficult for you because you're targeting the youth who is reading books written by, so to speak, those from the West, because there is not anything that you can quote from economics, science, mathematics that is coming from an African. Everything is coming from Brooks and Dunn, this and that, so and so.
Yes, basically, we're not just going to do the conference and just leave there.
Yeah, okay.
As I'm talking to you, Saturday, we're meeting with potential leaders who want to set up chapters in their various communities and schools. Right. And we'll continue to mentor them for them to carry the message down to the youth, because we believe that if we can change their mindset from that level, it will be easy for them to cultivate the principles of leadership and serve their communities when it's time for them to
Let me come to Badele. There's another one. What is
Yes.
That's okay. I don't know what.
And this is a conference on
Africa. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. First conference on outstanding African thinkers,
right,
outstanding African minds, and the first one is on Chimwezu, the author of this book. This is actually the first printing of the book, The West and the Rest of Us.
Okay.
And the conference starts on the 4th. That's registration, and then it starts in earnest on the 5th and 6th.
Right.
And some of these things that we're discussing are going to be right up for discussion at the conference when we're talking about leadership, when we're talking about what do we need to do as African people. You mentioned, oh, all the books are coming from the West, so-called West.
Stone and Cousins, Stone Co. We read it. I mean, so, all our maths, literature, everything is coming from them. We make references to them.
Well, this is the role. So it's actually being held at the Institute of African Studies, and this is the role of African Studies.
Right.
Every single thing that I quoted from you today is from African authors, dating back over 5,000 years ago.
What about our chemistry books? What about our physics books?
All
what
of
about
that
core
is there.
science?
So
Everything, we don't have them.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And this is the role of African Studies to let you know that, yes, we do have them. So if we're looking at political science, we can look at a text called Mbongi, which is by Nganga Fukiao, which is an African solution to the leadership crisis that we're dealing about. If we're looking at leadership, you can look at a text, there's a text in Tree called Tree Kasamrane Kaseswa, and in it, you have all the chemistry terminology. There's another book called Akan Terminology by my former supervisor, Professor Osam, where you have all the scientific terminology. Professor Ajikum also has a dictionary of scientific terms that he's coming out with. And all of these things are there. I teach my children the periodic table of elements in Chi. I teach them all of the science things, all the math things.
But all these can be used as textbooks.
Yes, they can be used as textbooks. And we have a school called Abibi Fahodia Desunyabia where we do use them all as textbooks. So these are the things, if we say that we can't do it, then we've already defeated ourselves before we started.
Yeah, because my question is that, for example, how would you say gigabytes in Akan?
In Kratwapong.
Hey.
So in Kratwa, that's information, and then Pong is a large amount of information. I actually did a whole series on TV3 where I was going through all of these scientific terminology in Chi. So I can go, you can...
Kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes.
In Kratosini. Right? So all you're doing is you're giving different dimensions. And all of those different dimensions are already there in Chi. So if you want to say Kratosini, Kratwa, Kratopong, Kratopong Kesye, so you can go through each and every one. Because if you even understand what is kilo saying, what is byte saying, what is mega saying, it's just giving you different proportions, and all of those levels of proportionality already exist there. Because we don't understand even what the words are, that's where we think, oh, they're just magical, we just have to call it by that. But once you actually understand the etymology of what the words are, then you say this is just a very simple language, because what they do is they take terms in Greek that oftentimes we don't understand, terms in Latin that we don't understand. But when you actually break down what the term is, if you're saying proton, it just means first. The word proton, it just means first. You understand? If I go through all of this scientific terminology, matter of fact, just last week, our students were at a solar fair, an energy fair, where they gave all the different terms. So that's for solar energy, right? Samfaya Huading, so that's renewable energy. So we've gone through all of these scientific terms, and this is exactly what we're doing. So if we start off saying, oh, we can't do it, we can't. There was a point in time where the British Isles were conquered by Rome, and then conquered by the Norman invasion out of France. At that point in time, it was thought that English could never be used to teach, because Latin was the language of learning, and then later on French was the language of learning. So if you are speaking English, it's like this is the word vernacular. That's where it came into place, because they're saying this is just like if you look at the word for cow and beef. Cow is what the herders use, that's the indigenous British, but then beef is coming from the French. So you always have pig and then pork. Because you have the high language, and then you have the language which is just ordinary vernacular, and that's English. But now, because we don't understand that history, we think, oh, English is magical. There are things that we can't say. So this is Fidia Bajimma. This is the word for computer. And it's in the Advanced Akan Dictionary.
Fidia Bajimma.
Right.
So that is a computer.
That is the word for a computer. You can look at the Advanced Akan Dictionary by J.O. Anane. So all of these terms are there, but who is even saying, oh, it's there, let me learn it? We just start there. Every single time a person comes into my room and they start speaking Chi, I say, do you know we have all these dictionaries? And I pull out 10 dictionaries. They say, I didn't even know we had one.
But I didn't know this was called Fidie Bajemba.
Yes.
And even to
because you didn't look in the dictionary.
What he's saying, a language is supposed to be dynamic.
Exactly.
We're supposed to grow our language.
Exactly.
We don't even teach it in the first place.
Which is what English did. They grew their language.
So in school, you speak vernacular, you speak your language, they tell you that's vernacular, and you get whipped for it. I can't even read and write my own language. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
I have people who don't know simple colors. This is bredum. That's the word for violet
Really?
or purple. Bredum, right? Brown, dodoye. I had a room full of all these scholars, and someone said, what's the word for brown? No one raised their hand except for me. Because I said, how are you teaching your children? I teach my children everything in Chi. That's dodoye. Right? When you say mehun dodome kakra, that's actually what the word is coming from, right? Dodoye. Right? In Equapian, they say dodoye. Right? But all of these terms are there, but we start off like, oh, we are so primitive, we don't understand anything, but we invented writing. The very first writing system in the history of the world came from Africa. The very first medical doctor in the history of the world came from Africa. That's Hesi Ra and Imhotep, who are contemporaries. The very first female physician in the history of the world came from Africa. That's Pesachet. The very first female ruler in the history of the world, Sobek Neferu, came from right here in Africa. But is this part of our curriculum? Again, what we do for ourselves depends on what we think of ourselves. That depends on what we know of ourselves, and that depends on what we have been told. So if we haven't been told about ourselves, then we don't know very much about ourselves. If we don't know very much about ourselves, we don't think very much of ourselves. And then what we do for ourselves, this is what we're complaining about here today.
Whew. Interesting and exciting. And Obadele Bakari. Kambon. Where is the name coming from?
Right, so Albadele is Yoruba, it translates to Ohene Abefie.
Okay.
So the king arrives at the house. Bakari is coming from Kiswahili. And actually, even before that, that's the last outright ruler of Kemet and Kush, what they call ancient Egypt and Nubia. He had the name Bakari, which is the soul of the Ka, is like the crab of Ra, which is the sun. And then Kambon also comes from Nigeria, translates to in the spirit of the people. But they also give that name here in Ghana among the Dagbanli speakers, where it translates to the warrior. So you have Kambona, Kambonse, and all of these.
Oh, wow. That is very instrumental. Okay. So we have to start learning a lot about it.
Yes, we do.
I have always used the gigabyte, megabyte things to throw off people who said, we should localize a thing and do them. Like, how would you be able to fathom that? But I like this one.
Yeah.
The Bajrimba.
Fidie Bajrimba.
Fidie Bajrimba.
Enkratuo Kurabia. That is what you will call an external drive. Enkratuo Kurabia. I can do this all day. You can have me on and I'll just go through nothing but scientific terms. And everything you say we can't do, I will do it right there in front of you.
Oh, wow.
And I'll have my child come and teach you all of those exact same words, because this is what she learns. She learns knowing that all of these things exist, all of these things are done, because she's reading the dictionary every day. And she can do this in Chi and in Yoruba and now in Wolof and in Medu-Neter. That's the very first writing system in the history of the world.
So look, ignorance.
Knowledge is power. You need to know that knowledge is power. Thank you so very much, Obadele, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
And Nana, I'm ever so grateful, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In all what you're doing.
And on the 10th, we have a summit in Koforidua at the Koforidua Technical University.
Okay, Koforidua Technical University.
From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
10 to 2?
Yes.
Saturday.
It's that Impact Africa Youth Leadership Summit 2018.
All right. Okay. So there you go. If you're living within the environs of Koforidua, make sure you go to the Technical University, Koforidua Technical University, and you see Nana and Co there. Thanks so very much. I'm sure you've been educated and you've been given certain highlights of so many things. And like I said, we'll be serializing these things so at least we can learn a lot about ourselves. Just before you move on to adopt certain names upon yourself, that could even bring curses and cast you away from the traditions and origins of what you're supposed to be as in your destiny. Make sure you carry your local African name. Thanks so very much. If you want to have breakfast, well, the best place to go is Bespoke Sips. I am going to have my tiger nut pudding, the atadre milk. Why do you add the milk to it? It's atadre.
Atadre Munsio.
Atadre Munsio. So that is what I'm going to have this morning. This is TV Africa. And coming up, Councillor Lutrot, we're looking at dealing with your exes. So if you have an ex in your relationship, no, you have an ex, you have a relationship, you have an ex, you're married now. How do you deal with that ex? Can you call that ex and say that, okay, it's your birthday, happy birthday, I'm buying you this. Or I'm taking you out. Or, oh, this is your child. Or you say, oh, I don't have money on me. Can you fix me something? Are you supposed to be taking care of your exes? Councillor Lutrot will be coming up after this. We'll take a break. Bye. Thanks.
Where'd you fly?